I thought I was doing something normal. Just a small father thing. Pick up my son from daycare, stop by the store for milk, go home, reheat dinner, and let the day disappear. It was a Thursday. Late autumn. The kind of gray afternoon that looks like it never fully woke up. My phone buzzed at 4:12 p.m. A text from my wife, Jenna. Running late. Can you grab Liam? Nothing unusual. Jenna ran late all the time. Meetings. Deadlines. Work emergencies that always seemed to happen 5 minutes before daycare closed. I texted back. On it. And I meant it. I drove to Bright Steps Daycare with the heater on, the radio low, and a quiet sense of pride that I was handling the chaos without complaining. In the parking lot, I saw the usual routine. Parents rushing, toddlers in puffy jackets, the daycare staff holding doors and smiling in that tired but kind way people do when they spend all day with small humans. I walked inside, signed in at the front desk, and nodded at Mrs. Palmer, the front office manager. She was in her 50s, hair always neatly pinned back, glasses hanging from a chain like she'd been wearing them for decades. Hi, Mike, she said. Picking up Liam? Yep, I said, smiling. Jenna's stuck at work. Mrs. Palmer blinked. Then she tilted her head slightly, as if I'd mispronounced my own name. Oh, she said softly. Liam already left. I laughed once, because that's what you do when you hear something that doesn't fit. Left? I repeated. No, he didn't. I just got here. Mrs. Palmer's smile thinned. He left about 20 minutes ago, she said. With his father. I stared at her. His father. I'm his father, I said, still trying to keep it light, still assuming this was a paperwork mistake. Mrs. Palmer's expression changed, not into panic, into something careful, something professional. My stomach tightened. Who took him? I asked. Mrs. Palmer glanced at her computer screen, then back at me. She lowered her voice. His father, she repeated, as if the word itself could solve the problem. I need you to tell me who, I said, and my voice came out sharper than I intended. Behind me, a child laughed. Somewhere down the hall, someone sang a cleanup song. The normal world kept going. Mrs. Palmer swallowed. We checked the authorized pickup list, she said. It was a man. He signed in. He knew Liam. Liam ran to him. My hand started to shake. There is no other man, I said, and now I wasn't smiling at all. There is no other father. Mrs. Palmer stood up from her chair. Let's go to my office, she said. In her small office, she closed the door and turned her computer monitor slightly toward me. I didn't answer. She pulled up the sign-out log. Here it was. Today's date, Liam's name, time, 4:34 p.m., and a signature. I stared at the signature like it was a foreign language. Mrs. Palmer pointed to the relationship column. It said, Father. I looked up. That's not my signature, I said. Mrs. Palmer nodded slowly, as if she'd expected that. Do you have any custody arrangements I should know about? She asked gently. No, I said. We're married. We live together. There is no arrangement. She hesitated, then clicked into Liam's profile. The authorized pickup list appeared. I expected to see Jenna, me, maybe my sister. But the list had a third name, a man's name, Eric H. My throat went dry. Who is Eric? I asked. Mrs. Palmer's eyes flicked to mine. He's listed here, she said, voice neutral. He's been authorized for pickup since about a month ago. A month. My brain refused it. No, I said. That's impossible, Mrs. Palmer scrolled. There was a note attached, added by Jenna. I felt my body go cold. Do you have cameras? I asked. Yes, she said immediately. In the lobby and at the entrance. Show me, I said. She called a staff member. And within a minute we were in a small room with a monitor. Mrs. Palmer typed in the time. 4:31 p.m. The lobby camera showed the front desk, the glass doors, the sign-in table. Then the doors opened. A man walked in. He was tall, wearing a dark jacket, hair neatly cut. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look like someone doing something wrong. He walked up to the desk and spoke to Mrs. Palmer, off-camera audio. Mrs. Palmer in the video nodded. He signed the clipboard. Then he waited. A minute later, Liam came down the hallway holding a teacher's hand. And when Liam saw the man, he broke free and ran straight into his arms. The man lifted him easily, like he'd done it before. Liam's face was visible in the camera. He was smiling. Not confused. Not scared. Smiling like he was happy. My stomach turned so hard I thought I might throw up. "Liam knows him," Mrs. Palmer whispered. I couldn't speak. The man adjusted Liam's jacket, held his little hand, and walked out. The door closed. The video ended. I stood there staring at the blank screen, feeling like the room had tilted. Mrs. Palmer touched my elbow gently. I pulled my phone out with fingers that barely worked. I called Jenna. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times. No answer. I called again, straight to voicemail. My breath came short. I texted, "Where is Liam?" A second later, "WHO is Eric?" No reply. Enough device. In my head, a dozen stories tried to form, each worse than the last. Kidnapping. Mistaken identity. Some horrible misunderstanding. But the camera had shown something that killed the kidnapping story in one quiet, devastating detail. My son looked comfortable. My son looked like this was normal. I drove home on autopilot. The road was wet. The sky was low. The rain had started again, fine and steady, like the world trying to wash itself clean. At a red light, my phone buzzed. A text from Jenna. "Relax, Liam's fine." That was it. No explanation. No, "I'm sorry." No, "I can explain." Just, relax. My hands clenched around the steering wheel until my knuckles hurt. I texted back. She replied a minute later. "Eric is taking him for ice cream. He'll be home soon." Ice cream. My vision blurred. "Eric," I typed. "Is that his father?" No reply. I pulled into our driveway and sat in the car for a full minute, breathing hard. When I finally went inside, the house was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels like a trap. I paced the living room, staring at Liam's toys scattered on the rug. A tiny dinosaur, a plastic truck. The little blanket he dragged around when he was tired. I looked at the family photos on the wall. Me and Jenna at our wedding, me holding Liam the day he was born. The 3 of us at the beach last summer. A normal life frozen in frames. Then I heard a car door outside. My heart jumped into my throat. I moved to the window. A car I didn't recognize was parked at the curb. The man from the video stepped out. Eric. He walked around to the passenger side and opened the door. Liam climbed out, holding a small cup. "Ice cream." He giggled, and Eric wiped his chin with a napkin like he'd done it 100 times. They walked up the path to my front door. I opened it before they could knock. Liam looked up at me, surprised. "Daddy," he said, as if nothing was wrong. He ran to me. I lifted him automatically, my arms acting on muscle memory even while my mind screamed. Behind Liam, Eric stood on the porch, holding himself carefully. He gave me a small, cautious smile. "Mike," he said quietly, "I'm not here to cause trouble." My whole body felt like it was vibrating. "Who are you?" I asked. Eric glanced down the street as if hoping for privacy. Then he looked at me again. "I'm Eric," he said. "Jenna told me you know." "I know your name," I said. "I know you're on my son's pickup list. I know he ran to you like your family." Eric's jaw tightened. He looked genuinely uncomfortable. "I'm sorry," he said. "I didn't think it would happen like this." "Like what?" I demanded, and my voice cracked. Eric took a slow breath. "Can I come in?" he asked softly. "We should talk inside." I wanted to slam the door in his face. I wanted to hit him. But then Liam squirmed in my arms and said, "I want to show you my sticker." He was happy, innocent, and that innocence forced me to do the only thing that mattered. Not traumatize my child. So I swallowed the fire in my throat and stepped aside. "Come in," I said, voice tight. Eric entered. He looked around the living room at the photos, the toys, the normal mess of family life. His eyes lingered on one photo. Jenna and me holding Liam between us. He looked away quickly. Jenna should be here, I said. She's on her way, Eric replied. She asked me to pick him up. Because she knew you'd be upset. Upset, I repeated. Eric nodded slowly. Look, he said. I'm not going to pretend I'm innocent. But I'm not a monster. I stared at him. Are you sleeping with my wife? I asked. Eric flinched, as if the bluntness slapped him. Yes, he said quietly. The word landed like a weight. Eric didn't answer immediately. His silence answered for him. I set Liam down gently. Buddy, I said, forcing my voice soft. Go to your room for a minute, okay? Daddy needs to talk. Liam pouted. Please, I said. I'll come in soon. He hesitated, then shuffled down the hall. When his door closed, the house felt suddenly too large. Eric's shoulders sagged. I never wanted Liam involved, he said. I swear. But you picked him up, I said. You took him for ice cream. You're on his daycare list. Eric's eyes lifted. Jenna added me, he said. She said it was temporary. She said you were basically separated. Of course she did. People don't say, I'm cheating. They say, my marriage is over. And you believed her, I said. Eric's mouth tightened. I wanted to, he admitted. I nodded slowly, feeling something dark settle in my chest. And Liam? I asked again, voice barely above a whisper. How long has Liam known you? Eric swallowed. Then it became normal. I finished for him. Eric nodded. I'm sorry, he said again, and it sounded weak in the air. The key turned in the front door. Jenna walked in. She stopped when she saw us. Her eyes went to me first, then to Eric. Then to the hallway where Liam's room was. Mike, she said softly, like she was approaching a wild animal. Please don't do this in front of Liam. I almost laughed. Don't do what? I asked. Find out my son has a second father on his pickup list? Jenna's face tightened. He's not his father, she said quickly. Eric shifted uncomfortably beside her. I looked at Jenna. Then why did you list him as father at daycare? I asked. Jenna blinked. I pulled out my phone and held it up. They showed me the log, I said. They showed me the camera footage. Liam ran to him, Jenna. I didn't mean to put father, she said. It was a drop-down. I clicked the wrong thing. My throat tightened. That's your explanation? I asked. Jenna stepped closer, hands slightly raised, voice gentle. Mike, she said, Liam is safe. That's what matters. I stared at her. You told me to relax, I said, while a stranger walked out of daycare with my kid. He's not a stranger, Jenna said quickly. Then who is he? I asked. Say it out loud. Jenna's eyes flicked to Eric. Then she looked back at me. He's someone I care about, she said. And Liam? I asked. What does Liam think he is? Jenna's jaw trembled. I didn't want to confuse him. She whispered. You already did, I said. The rain tapped at the windows. He was listening. I lowered my voice. Why? I asked Jenna. Just tell me why. Jenna's eyes filled. Real tears this time. Messy and unplanned. Don't, I said quietly. Don't rewrite our life to justify this. Eric stared at the floor. Jenna wiped her face quickly, trying to regain control. I didn't plan for you to find out like this, she said. And how did you plan for me to find out? I asked. Silence, because there was no good answer. I took a slow breath. Eric, I said, turning to him, leave. Eric looked up, startled. Leave, I repeated. Calm. Firm, the voice you use when your child is asleep and you need the world to stay quiet. Eric's shoulders slumped. He nodded once. Okay, he said softly. He walked toward the door. As he passed Jenna, he hesitated. like he wanted to say something. He didn't. He left. The door closed. For a moment, it was just me and my wife, and the life we'd built, cracking like ice. Jenna opened her mouth. I held up a hand. "Not tonight," I said quietly. Her eyes widened, egg shut. "What do you mean?" she whispered. "I mean Liam is in his room," I said. "He doesn't deserve to watch us destroy each other." Jenna's shoulders sagged. "I'm sorry," she said. I nodded once. "I'm going to put him to bed," I said. "Then we'll talk. And tomorrow we make a plan." "A plan?" Jenna repeated. "Yes," I said, and my voice was steadier than I felt. "Because you already made yours." I walked down the hallway to Liam's room. He was sitting on his bed, clutching his dinosaur. His eyes were wide. "Daddy," he whispered, "are you mad?" I knelt beside him and smoothed his hair. "Not mad at you," I said softly. "Never at you." He stared at me, lower lip trembling. "Eric said he's my friend," he whispered. My throat tightened. "I know," I said, swallowing hard. "But grown-up stuff is complicated." Liam frowned. "Are you leaving?" he asked. The question hit me like a punch that moment. Because in that moment I realized the real damage wasn't the affair. It was that my child had already started to sense instability. I forced my voice calm. "Not going anywhere tonight," I said. "I'm right here." Liam nodded slowly, not fully convinced. I tucked him in, kissed his forehead, and turned off the light. When I stepped back into the living room, Jenna was on the couch, hands clasped, eyes red. She looked smaller than she had earlier. "We need to talk," she whispered. I sat in the armchair across from her, leaving distance between us like a boundary. "I'm going to ask you 3 questions," I said calmly, "and I need the truth." Jenna nodded quickly. "First," I said, "how long?" Jenna's lips trembled. 6 months, she whispered. My chest tightened. "Second," I continued, "why did you put him on the daycare list?" Jenna swallowed. "Because you needed him to function in your life," I said, finishing the thought. Jenna nodded, tears falling. "Third," I said, voice low, "what was your plan?" Jenna's eyes flicked up. I waited. She looked away. "I was going to leave," she whispered, "after the holidays. I was trying to make it smooth for Liam." "Smooth?" I stared at her. "You were going to build a second family behind my back," I said quietly, "and call it smooth." Jenna sobbed once, covering her mouth. "I didn't want to hurt you," she whispered. I leaned back in the chair and felt the exhaustion flood in. "I don't know what happens to us," I said softly, "but I know what happens next." Jenna looked up, hope flickering. "What?" she whispered. Jenna nodded desperately. "Yes," she said. "Yes, okay." I stood up. "I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight," I said. Jenna flinched. "Not tonight," I repeated gently. I walked toward the hallway, then paused. "I need you to understand something," I said without turning around. Jenna went still. "The worst part," I said quietly, "isn't that you cheated." My voice shook slightly. "The worst part is that my son ran to him." Silence. The rain filled it. In the weeks that followed, everything moved slowly and painfully, like a bruise spreading. There were meetings with lawyers. There were careful conversations with daycare staff. There were new pickup rules and new passwords at the front desk. There were nights when Jenna cried in the kitchen and I stood in the doorway, feeling like a stranger in my own life. Eric disappeared, mostly. He stopped coming to the house. He stopped picking up Liam. But the damage didn't disappear with him. Because Liam asked questions. "Why is mommy sad? Why do you sleep in the other room? Is Eric coming back?" And every time he asked, I had to swallow my anger and answer in a way that didn't poison him. That's what being a parent is. Choosing your child's peace over your own impulse. One night, months later, Liam fell asleep on my chest while rain tapped the window. His small hand rested on my shirt, trusting. I stared at the ceiling and thought about that moment in the daycare office. The log, the signature, the word father. next to a name I didn't recognize. A single drop-down choice that changed my entire life. People think betrayal is dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's a clipboard at a front desk. Sometimes it's your child smiling at someone you've never met. And sometimes, the most painful part of the story is not what adults do to each other. End optional closing line. Bedtime tone. If you're listening late at night, let the rain take the sharp edges off this story. And if you're a parent, hold your child a little closer. They feel more than we think.